right, our last presenter for the evening. I'll start this while the presenter gets himself organized over there. The hometown kid here from Ryerson, Richard Grunberg, has been in the production industry for the past 30 years. He has studied engineering, has a BA in radio and television arts, an MA in communication culture, and has worked professionally in still photography as a DP and TP in the television industry. Rick was VP and founding member of one of Canada's most successful television facility and production companies of its time. He was later hired as a TD and DP at TVO and in the freelance market. Rick has given numerous lectures on advanced camera and lighting techniques throughout North America and was instrumental in the funding, design, and construction of Canada's first university-based high-definition television training facility, which I believe was right here in this building. He was also involved in some of the first high-definition tests used almost 25 long years ago. Rick has been a full-time faculty member in the RTA department at Ryerson for 15 years, while always maintaining a busy freelance shooting schedule. Rick's research interests are now directed in the areas of HD bidirectional broadcast over IP, winning the prestigious Orion Award, and traveling the world building the Global Campus Collaborative Student Network. Rick has also been featured on a number of CBC shows with his studies in 3D production and its physiological parameters, with a key role in the design and implementation and director of Ryerson's Digital Cinema and Advanced Visualization Lab. It's a mouthful.
I gave you too long.
I cut it down a little.
Nice. Thank you. So, and last but hopefully not least, I'm just going to have a sip of water. Welcome again to Ryerson. I'm not going to be speaking so much about Ryerson or the RTA School of Media, as I am just going to be sort of taking you through two projects that we're developing, or that we have been developing here. One, which I spoke about, I think at SMPTE a number of years ago, in sort of the progress in the Global Campus Network and the Global Campus Project. And the second sort of thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is the Maple Leaf Garden slash, we're not allowed to call it Maple Leaf Gardens, the Mattamy Athletic Center facility, where we're putting a new sport media program together for that facility. So first thing is the Global Campus Project. Again, a number of years ago I sort of spoke about this, and we've all been talking about sort of collaborative projects. And we found at Ryerson that a very important aspect of collaboration is sort of international collaboration in terms of the creative things that we're trying to do here at Ryerson and at some of the institutions that we've been partnering with. Because we find our students are lacking in certain very important aspects of understanding how the world functions, how other people see creative projects, and how to basically work with other people on those creative projects in sometimes different languages. We're actually helping to develop a program that our partners can actually sort of talk live to us with live translation. Sort of Microsoft is, I wouldn't say necessarily a partner in this project, but a partner in a project that's developing some software that will allow us to actually interact with international students who don't necessarily speak English. So this project itself is all about giving our students some sort of real professional level experience, the excitement of being in a studio during a live broadcast that's international, a la CNN. However, we don't really like to call it a CNN type of model because it's different with respect to the fact that we want to sort of embrace the cultural differences and let that show in the production process as well. So it is about cultural exchange and international collaboration. There are a lot of things that we find sort of that are similar in our production styles, and there are a lot of things very different, and I'll take you through some of the things that we've discovered in what we will call sort of our research project into international collaboration. It's also a forum to showcase film and live international media production. So it's an opportunity for students basically to dump their material into a server and a master control system that we're developing here. And hopefully at one point in time have a 24-hour network where it's students from around the world seeing other students' content, not just sharing in the actual production of it, but sharing in sort of the experience of watching it and deconstructing it. And it's really about sort of, as well for us, sort of our tradition here in RTA, We kept the name RTA. We were going to get rid of it, which upset a lot of RTA alumni. So we kept the RTA, and we call it, it's now known as the RTA School of Media. Very well sort of recognized in the industry for the sort of creative and business types and legal types. Now a lot of lawyers come out of our program, we find as well. But it's also about sort of broadcast and media cast sort of education. So we find this is another avenue, another opportunity for our students to really get a handle on what it's like to work in a broadcast environment, in an international broadcast environment. So we found that the Global Campus Network and the Global Campus projects and the projects we're doing in it are really the most valuable sort of forum for content, sort of content exchange, media education, and creative exchange. So again, we were talking about our students. They're expected to enter the industry with the ability to work with people all around the world. So we're getting a whole new level of students who can actually deal with the intricacies of sort of dealing with people internationally and the cultural differences. So that's been a very important aspect of sort of what's developed through our project. Content creators themselves need to keep a global audience in mind, albeit sort of the U.S. market is still the major market. We're finding there's a great deal of interest. In fact, for our project, we found there's a far more interest around the world than there is in the States. I guess we're much more open to sort of sharing our cultural diversity and interacting with others. So we've got lots of people, universities from around the world that are participating with us. However, very few in the States. We found that market very hard to gain entrance into. Technicians and producers must always account for sort of how to work with these global partners. The technologies we found, Nutella and Manny and others have all been working with our international partners, technologically speaking as well, to make these interconnections. So there's been, I believe, a whole learning experience there in terms of working with different time zones and different times and how technicians see things differently, and how, whereas audio dropping out in Israel may not be as much of an issue as it is to us here, kind of thing. But again, broadcast education is not adapting to this. So we're teaching a model, we're trying to teach a very different model, and we're trying to reach out to those people internationally. So our primary objectives are collaboration and education. Students in our educational environment need to gain this international experience for live as well as pre-produced content. The items that we have coming into our show, there's a lot of pre-produced stuff. So there's a lot of packaged stuff coming into our shows, but there's a lot of live interactivity, and I'll be showing you some of that as well. And again, you'll see the video that we have to show at the end of these experiences, and our students have said that, and all the international students have said this. It's like there's so much excitement in terms of working to a deadline, like to the second, in terms of working with all these partners around the world, and the sort of glee that you see at the end of the video that I'll be showing you after, and the way the students around the world are reacting to this is really, really good, marvelous to watch as an educator as well. And it also brings another level to the education, because all of a sudden, they're not just doing it for the in-class experience, they're doing it for an international audience that are watching it live. In fact, our last show, one of our partners, Sheila O'Brien, who was directing the opening and closing ceremonies of all the award ceremonies for the Olympics, came in right after the Olympics to talk to one of our classes, because she's been sort of very excited about this project and helping us sort of perpetuate it. But she said she couldn't believe the sort of professionalism that came out of the students when they really realized they're going to be working to a deadline, they're going to be working with an international audience, and people are actually going to be seeing this around the world. So she was at the airport in Moscow on her cell phone, calling us saying, hey, the show looks okay, can you please ask the director to, I think they're looking at the program monitor rather than the individual monitor, so you know, they're not cutting the show right. So it was really interesting to get that kind of interaction from professionals in the industry too. So again, we're sharing and learning how other cultures produce content, and we want to be tolerant of the differences. We found, for instance, that in Denmark, they were quite insulted at the way we were producing our feature items, because the reporter played such an important role in it, and it was always a lower thirds key about the reporter, and the reporter was introing it, extraing it in the middle, and in Denmark, they said, get rid of the reporter. This is not important. This is not a significant component of your piece. It's all about the story. And at first, our first reaction was, no, we're CNN, we're the head, we're the host network kind of thing. And we said, no, you got to do it this is our thinking. And then at the meeting, we looked at each other. We were Skyping with Denmark and a few of our other participants in Israel and elsewhere. And we said, wait a second, this is not what we're about. We're about let them produce content in their way. Let our students see what the differences are and how sort of the value that's gained from seeing it, the way they produce content differently. So initially we were calling it the CNN of the student world. We don't like to call it that anymore. We'd like to consider it sort of a much less moderated CNN. So, and again, it's to disseminate all our content for exposure, critique, and learning around the world. And we already know this. Initially, it wasn't working for us because many, many, many years ago, we tried to do things via satellite, only to realize we can't afford satellite. The time was just too expensive for us. It was too hard to connect. So along came the lovely, hopefully slide, the internet. And we said, initially, I guess when we did some of the first preliminary tests, it couldn't really carry a very high quality signal, as I'm sure you're all aware. Recently, so we were down at NAB, and we saw some things that a company called Ryerson was doing in terms of bidirectional video. And we said, maybe, this is an opportunity to work with them and develop something. And this was a number of years ago, before there were too many products out there. And they said, well, we have a product that's really very low latency, lower than anybody else's, can work on almost a standard broadband signal, and can give you the interactivity that you want. The cost up front was relatively high, but compared to what it would be if we had a permanent connection, we realized, the cost sort of long term would not be very expensive for us. So we got past the expense, and we realized that as networks are getting better and better, it's becoming less and less of an issue. The lower cost sort of transmission using the high vision technology made it easier. We started to leverage this to build the network of universities, research institutions, colleges, media educators, and we started collaborating on some stuff. I'll show you some of the first tests we did. So to us, it was sort of goodbye to satellite. Sorry if there are any representatives of satellite companies. And hello to student production collaboration around the world. So what we've done is we use the high vision technology to replace what would be the link-ups. The first actual test that we did, I'll show you, wasn't this one, but we went to, I went to New Zealand and took this little portable kit with me, and this was a number of years ago, and we just hooked it up to standard broadband we had, I guess, at both ends. Here we're obviously on the Orion, so it was a bit more stable here. But in New Zealand, it was not the most stable, we believe, the network. So the people back here, the technicians, I think Brian Withers, who's not here, said he would eat his hat if the signal went through and everything was clean and la la la, and everything would look beautiful and audio and everything would be synchronized. He has not to this day eaten his hat, but everything worked tickety-boo. We just hooked up the two. It took a little while to get, I guess, the right profiles for the networks we were working along, but it worked really well. We found the delay from New Zealand was just it was probably about 200 milliseconds, 170 to 200 milliseconds. And so it was incredible we were talking to each other, and it was a really live interaction, not a la Skype or a la satellite, and we had full broadcast video both ways. I'll show you sort of some of the signals. We had full broadcast video both ways. We had intercom both ways, so the studios were tied up intercom to intercom. We had the IFB that we were able to talk to directly to sort of talents here on location, and all with this, basically this one box with HD, SDI in and out, and sort of giving 1080i video. And we realized too that we don't want to be so dependent on the technology, because as the networks get better and as the technology changes, and we're now reaching out to a number of areas of the world, they don't have the best networks and also don't have the money to even buy these boxes, which Hydrogen is sort of supporting us with to some degree. They don't have the finances available. So we're trying to find other methods as things come up, as you folks begin to please hear of technologies. I know Attila and Manny and others are always searching for other ways to get it sort of cheap in a box kind of thing that we could do what we're doing, sort of super Skype. We hope eventually technology won't be the deterrent to the network we're trying to build. So presently, this is what we have, the connectivity we have. We've got this, the high vision sort of 1060 here in our I guess central equipment room with 4 units in it, 4 racks in it, so we can go to 4 locations. We've got a number of these boxes deployed around the world. We have right now Tel Aviv, we've got Rutgers in the States, we have a number of portable kits, and we're going to be sending out a bunch more to University of Johannesburg, to AISFM in India, in Hyderabad, India, to Dublin, to Denmark. So we're really going to sort of have built up our network, and eventually we hope we won't necessarily have to be the hub of it all, because right now we're the only one that can receive and send all signals. We've also, as I said, we've been working to a lower common denominator. So our last show, we actually had someone FaceTime in. We had people Skype in. So we're doing as the broadcasters are doing now, and sort of embracing Skype and other sort of easy, ready-to-use technologies. And we were actually, I think, pretty surprised at how well the Skype worked out and how low, how little delay there was in it. Resolution was not as good, but it was still pretty remarkable. So we're able to reach out to a lot of people. We had somebody on their cell phone in the car FaceTiming in to have a talk and interact with our host, kind of thing. So we're trying to reach out to everybody. Eventually, we hope that somebody will have a cell phone with 2 cameras, sending audio, sort of 2 audio feeds, 2 camera feeds, HD, and we can just have people doing streeters with their Nokia kind of 12 megapixel cell phones out there. So past the initial test, if you could, Manny, just click on that one. It'll go to a website, but I'll just show you a few seconds of the initial test that we did. Some of you may have seen this before. You can go to the higher resolution after too. And go to 7.
Yeah, work on it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lydia, and we are here to discuss a project that is meant to circumvent satellite and traditional fiber for broadcast and instead use ultra-high bandwidth photonic networks. So we've got Rick in Toronto from Ryerson and Cliff in Sudbury from Laurentian University in conjunction with TFO. So welcome, gentlemen, to our little discussion.
Hi, Lydia.
Cliff, can you talk a little bit about TFO, what you do there, and how does this all tie into the project?
I'm a technical producer with TFO, and we're interested in seeing how we can work on this project to develop HD over IP. What this will allow us to do is it'll cost a little less. Being a not-for-profit broadcaster, it allows us to reach out more in the community and reach points that we couldn't have gotten to before.
That's great. And Rick, of course, Ryerson University is involved. Can you talk a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing this?
Well, I guess we started off this project trying to build it into a student network, a student television network that we have here.
So that was sort of our first test. Then next came, so we developed some content with AUT, and then we did sort of our first test with AUT. And if you click on that one for a few seconds, I hope it'll work. No? Wait a second. Okay, this is back to the second. Did I copy and paste the same one twice?
Hi, my name is Marion Kumi. I'm at Ryerson University in Toronto, where it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In different places in the world, it is many different times. And in Auckland, New Zealand right now, it is 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for us, but this morning for them. Danny Mulranen is in Auckland, New Zealand at Auckland University of Technology. And also in another location in this same building is Rob Hadari, who's a radio and television arts student. Hello to both of you.
Hello, Marianne.
Hi.
So, Danny, we watch television all the time and see this kind of thing on CNN's Situation Room and see that it's possible to talk to different places at the same time. But this is kind of a new and unusual technology, and we're hoping to be able to partner our 2 universities using it. And I'm wondering just how you feel about that.
really excited, Marion. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. We in Auckland, New Zealand, obviously in the South Pacific, we're a long way away from the rest of the world, and for us to have an opportunity to participate in something that gives us that connection to universities like Ryerson and some of the others you've been talking about in Europe is a fantastic chance. And for us, we have some
Gentleman over here still has not eaten his hat because it worked so well. So we did those tests. We went to NAB and showed this presentation in 2011 and what we were doing. And it was funny because the CEO of High Vision was there sort of standing with me talking, but he really said, well, I'm glad we're helping you, but I don't know if this project's going to really go anywhere, who's going to buy our tech. I guess it was all about sort of buying technology kind of thing. And then the VP of NBC engineering was standing beside him and sort of tapped him on the shoulder and said, I really want to talk to you about this. And then Mirko looked back at the badge where it said sort of VP of NBC, and he went, maybe we'll talk about this more. We'll help you. So all of a sudden it became a bit more of a priority, and they really started helping us to develop this more and more. So more tests, Europe, we started joining up with AUT again, with Danish School of Media, Rutgers, won an Orion Award in 2012. 2 episodes of the Global City show were produced, which is a show basically using the technology to now interact with people around the world. It's one of sort of 2 things that we've done so far. It's now airing on Rogers. If there's a Ryerson, what's it called? Ryerson on the air, and we're hoping to have a bigger and bigger block of time. They said it's one of their sort of most highly watched shows in that sort of time frame on that channel. So this is sort of when we began full production of our first show. That's actually that's our set locally in Toronto. That's Sheila O'Brien. We didn't have students they were all too nervous to work on this live show with 4 countries around the world. So Sheila said, "Okay, I'll show you how to do it." This is the lady that was sort of directing the Olympics, the host fee for all the networks this year. So Sheila came in. Mike, who's working at CBC, came in to switch it, and she brought her PA to help us. And the students were watching it, just like with mouths open, saying "wow," and they jumped on board sort of for the next show. We've had a lot of sort of people that care very much about what we're trying to do in the network. So they've been participants in some of the shows. And now if you could just click on the global, we'll show you the little sort of demo for, I don't know if it'll position itself well, but if you click on it, it should. I'll just, I can go for it. Reading my mind.
I'm ahead of you.
It's the first time a worldwide show like this has ever been produced by university students.
The Global City. Local voices, international perspectives.
Most shows originate from a broadcaster, and any of the stories you see come via satellite. That sort of connection has always been too expensive for students to access.
The Global City, however, is different in a few ways.
We're now using new technology which lets us connect with each other over the internet without any delay.
It's not just another TV show. It's an opportunity to connect with different students. And students from all around the world are collaborating to share their stories and their ideas.
The Global City is all about allowing students the chance to do that across countries and cultures, to get to see how we tell stories differently from each other and how we think about stories similarly and differently from each other around the world.
We've tried to make it accessible for everybody and so we could access anywhere in the world.
And for us to have an opportunity to participate in something that gives us that connection to universities like Ryerson and some of the others you've been talking about in Europe is a fantastic chance.
Both I and the students have learned and grown a lot. I really look forward to new challenges with the new shows with all our good partners around in the world.
You have a picture of that somewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm going to see that after the show. That's very important.
So we can get this united European effort.
You guys got a chance to look at the Rutgers bus system, the NJ transit system, and the New York City subway.
From Ryerson University, downtown Toronto.
The Global Campus Network, an alliance of universities around the world.
This is Stefan Larsen in Aarhus.
Hello and welcome to Dublin's Fair City. We're here on the streets of Auckland.
And I'm from Newcastle in North England.
From Little Italy, I'm Irina Chumak.
But it's been great, and I'd love to meet you guys sometime.
that's one. Realizing what we could do in the low latency we have with this network, we decided with the National Ballet School, if you click on that, to try and do a collaborative dance. So we said, okay, let's push it to the limits. Let's see if we can have at the National Assembly International Dance, dancers in Amsterdam.
Are you guys ready?
Dancing with each other.
As ready as we're gonna be. Okay, well, here goes.
Now this is not a mic. Those are two of the projects. There are a whole bunch of other projects that we've been working on. A collaborative drama where basically a scene takes place in different cities around the world. That's something we're looking at doing. In Israel, they want to do a collaborative circus, an on-camera circus kind of thing. So there are a lot of projects that are now sort of coming out, and we're actually going to be, we'll talk about the future. So networks are to have every universities in every continent participating. Again, we don't want technology to be the sort of determining factor. We're hoping we'll get beyond that very soon. You know, that every PC is going to be able to have 4 channels of audio and low latency, and the networks will be like that too. I'm not going to bother showing this, but Ryerson on the air again. We're airing sort of on TV stations, digital signage systems, and websites. We hope to eventually have weekly, daily programming on our network, and multiple hubs. The thing we found out is it's very hard being the hub of all these shows because we're dealing with so many different time zones, and Attila and other folks, Manny, are either up at 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning, or maybe in the middle of the day, and somebody else is upset because it's 4 in the morning for them. But we're trying to work out all these things, but we'd like to have somebody else that has 4 boxes in a big studio and could sort of be the hub for it. So we're hoping to have a few hubs around the world eventually. We want it to be a repository for materials so students can actually put pieces together, archive pieces, and share that content, and actually build stories up based on what we have stored. Shared production with developing nations. We're working with Hydrogen, actually working with another company called PESA on developing some newer technology that might help us and be just as low latency but very inexpensive. Another national ballet we plan to be doing. I spoke about the drama, the music festivals they want to do. We Day now, we've been contacted by, they would like to, I'm sure you all know about sort of the We Day sort of celebrations, and they're saying, wow, wouldn't it be great to collaborate with each other on stage, not just have one event, another time, another event. Well, let's get them all together and we'll all interact. It's supposed to be about an international forum as well, and children dealing with each other around the world, so let's make it that. So we're hoping to get more involved with that. CUC in China, we're trying to work with them. However, the funniest thing was when they came here to talk to us about developing a network, I don't know if you were at this meeting, I don't think you were, but they were showing some of the content that they were talking about, the openness and how we won't have the restrictions that we believed we would in terms of sharing content, and whenever somebody starts talking about, and Putin or something, and it cuts. Funny enough, as we started watching some of the content, they said they were going to, it just shut down, and we could not log back into the network they said was completely open and we'd be able to access content from. Could have been just bad timing, but it sort of left a bad taste in our mouth because for 2 days we couldn't access anything there. Next episodes, just click on the AISFM link. It's getting a lot of media attention around the world. Every country that sort of participates. Oh, you're going to get the ad. Oh no. Yeah, you may have to click on it again and then it'll show. Oh, there it is. So there's been a lot of media attention sort of devoted to it, and everybody's very proud of the fact that they're participating in this adventure. So now in Johannesburg in South Africa, there are a bunch of sort of articles talking about how now University of Johannesburg has joined our network. So we're seeking this attention, we're seeking new partners. You can close down on that, thank you. This should be the last major. And back to the presentation. And hopefully we'll start at the beginning. So we're slowly building our network, but to build the network, we realized the next thing we have to have is a little bit of a broadcast center. Our studios, we have 4 studios in this building. They're pretty heavily used, and we realized that in order to have students be able to produce content pretty much eventually on a daily basis and to be able to stream live, and we're starting to build a new facility called the Broadcast Center, which will handle content from the Global Campus Network, RUTV, our internal station. It'll stream it, it'll put it out to Rogers. Spirit Live, which is our internet-based sort of radio / audio TV station as well. And eventually sort of the Mattamy Center, the Sports Center will connect to this. And we hope we'll use this as sort of the hub for our master control and sending out all our content. So that's sort of next in our project. Money seems to still be the biggest issue. Again, we're hoping that even if people buy the technology, we found that they use the boxes, and if they get 2 of these boxes, they can now do their own remote productions. They just find 2 internet connections, and they can now have a remote from anywhere just using pretty much standard broadband, as long as they don't need a full HD studio. They're all concerned that they have to have a full studio to use it. We now have a little portable kit that we send around the world, and basically it has just about everything that's needed in there. We've got the standards converters here now too, thanks to 4A, nobody here from 4A who lent us their $100,000 converters originally. But we have a little kit that goes around the world, we send it, and anybody that wants to participate just pays for the shipping costs, and they can participate in a full broadcast with us. But they don't need a full studio. We want to work together, we're trying to find new partners. And sort of that's it for the Global Campus Network part of this. I'll show you some of the content we're storing. This is the website developed for the Global City Show. Again, the National Ballet. There have been a lot of articles that have come out about it. We won the Orion Award. It's been getting a lot more sort of university and news attention. These are sort of, there's myself here as sort of director of the network, and Marion Cooney, executive producer for one of their shows that's been developed. So I'll get to the questions at the end, because there's one other component that we've been asked to speak about, or that I wanted to talk about briefly, and it's very briefly, there are only about 5 or 6 slides, is the Mattamy Athletic Center at the Maple Leaf Gardens. We're just working on the process. I know a few people have sort of asked me how far we've gotten. I guess NAB is going to be a major time for us in terms of looking at some little pieces of what we'll need. But if you want to play the video, just click on the Mattamy Athletic Center at the Maple Leaf Gardens link, and it'll tell you a little bit about the program that we're developing, that we're going to be sort of teaching all the students.
Here's a pitch on the way, a swing and a belt, left field.
Carter comes up shooting. Got it! Out front again, Rouse. Scores!
What's all about the story? All the elements are there. You got the action, the characters, the emotion. It's compelling for the audience.
I'm Jeremy Pearl alongside Ryan McKenna, and we have quite the matchup today.
The biggest success for me was really getting a feel for a live broadcast and being in a mobile truck during a hockey game. That was something that I'd never experienced before, and the stress and feeling of that, as well as working as a team, was really something that I got a lot out of.
It really is about, we sort of had a packed meeting with a lot of our sponsors, a lot of the people that have been helping us develop the media program, and they said sports is such an important component. It could warrant an entire program unto itself. And recently we've started taking in applicants for next September, and we realized we've hit upon something very important, because the number of applicants that we got far outweighed, I think it was something like 1,300 applicants for 60 spots in the first year. So we realized we've hit something that's very important. I've had people come begging to me out there because they heard about the program, saying, why didn't I get it? Anyway, we hope eventually everybody who warrants it will get into the program, but the idea being that, again, sort of the rapid explosion has made it really important. First of its kind in North America, Bachelor of Arts in Sport Media. It's going to sort of, there'll be a very much a flexibility of learning in terms of what they're learning. It's about the creative, the production, the marketing, the business. It's something we in the RTA School of Media sort of pride ourselves on. It's not just about one aspect of the media. The people, as much as they may not specialize in one thing, they have a good sense of many aspects of the industry, and they go into many different aspects. So we have a lot of students that are in business, a lot of students that are in the creative, a lot of students in marketing. Like I said, lately we seem to be producing a lot of lawyers, a lot of people that go into law school. So at least we give them the groundwork so they can do those things. And if they want to get into the creative and into the production, because we like to really pride ourselves on storytelling, they can get into those aspects as well. It's about sort of the cutting-edge sports facility that we're going to be building there at the Mattamy Athletic Center. It's about sort of, again, the production skills, live production, broadening the horizons. It's about journalism, media, and entrepreneurship. The practicum projects, I'm going to show you a few just to end it all off. So it's an opportunity for them to showcase some of their skills. And it's their final year project, and they're going to be putting together some pretty major productions that we have in the curriculum right now for them. And it's about business. We've partnered with the Ted Rogers School of Management, so they can actually get a minor, a business minor. So if they want to go into any business aspect of the industry, which we found is quite critical, and Keith Pele and Scott Moore and others have told us as sort of being RTA grads. So we determined that we really should give students an opportunity for a minor. So graduates can be broadcasters, like on camera. We have a lot of on camera training that's going to be a part of the curriculum. Production companies, if they want to form a production company, they can and bring it outside of the university. About marketing, management, producing, sports theory, and business. The technology itself, again, it's just developing now. We haven't really, we haven't finalized on anything, but the intent would be that it's a full broadcast spec facility in all aspects of what we're trying to do. We're hoping the industry sort of might come to us, might give us opportunities to put our students in a broadcast environment, to do some games, to do, there are a lot of events that actually happen at the Maple Leaf Gardens. So we're hoping that it'll be an opportunity to really broadcast out of the center as much as possible. We're going to be RTA media production students will as well be using this facility, so it won't just be for the sports people. So my technical production students will go in there and have an opportunity to work on some of the mobiles coming in, or work on some of the technology that we're putting in there. As a matter of fact, Attila's going to let all my students just put in all the wiring, right, Attila? No, we're not not that technical. So we have an the ice rink there, as well as a basketball court. It's going to be all fiber connections, single mode fiber, all within the plant itself, and connections to the Rogers Communication Center here. So literally we could bounce back and forth between here and there with intercom, with any of our sort of signal flow. We're going to connect to the broadcast center downstairs so we can stream out and use it as a master control for broadcast as well. And I believe we already have some fiber output to some of the broadcasters in the neighborhood, so we can send the signal directly out. This is a diagram sort of just of the control room space itself that we've developed, along with sort of a few different models that we had seen. TSN has graciously donated their old, I guess it's their old set. We're going to use that. So we have a shoot area in there, as well as sort of beside, I think up here is where the control room is, am I correct? In the back, so about here, is where that control room that you saw is. Here's the rink. These are sort of our camera positions around the rinks. We've spoken to a number of sort of sports, a number of broadcasters in terms of positioning and lensing and stuff that we're going to have to do. And we've got, I guess we're going to have bulkheads at each of these spots, correct? So that's the arena. And here we have the gymnasium where there's sort of volleyball, basketball, a number of positions. It's a bit tight in there. So we have it on 2 different levels, I think you said it to us. There's sort of one, the lower level, and then the upper level. For some of the cameras, it really is kind of restricted because we can't go very far back as much as we asked them to build walls out and as much as we asked the building team to at least make us conduits that we could pass cables through. We didn't ask for much in the building process. We said, can you at least give us 4-inch, I think it was 4-inch diameter holes? And it seems we couldn't even get holes. I don't know how much a hole costs, but we asked for bigger holes. So that's restricted us in some ways in terms of the cabling that we can actually pull through, and it's made it miserable and more challenging for our technical team. So that's the facility, and I just have last thing to show you. It's all about our students and about the content. So I have about 5 minutes worth of, do I have 5 minutes worth of content I can show? Sure. Yeah. So just, I think there's a link, it'll say students practicum production. Yeah, that's the one. And just go full screen. Just to show you a little bit of what our last year students did. To give you an idea of the sort of...
Remember what I taught you? Taught me? You asked me if I knew what I was doing. I told you I didn't. So you laughed at me and tossed me a pack of bullets.
You want us to go camping in the middle of the woods without a single cell phone? It's dangerous.
Oh, come on. We can't go one night without your phone.
I thought tonight was about getting away from all this shit.
Promise you won't regret this.
How come I already do? People don't talk anymore.
Oh my God, Facebook's ruining the world. Nobody reads nowadays.
Why am I here? You didn't have to come.
Is anybody out there? Can anybody hear us? It's an accident.
It still happened.
What are you suggesting? We take care of the problem. I hope people start looking for us.
And I'm gonna stay here.
You know, well. What is your problem? You! Is it because I know?
The first 2 videos. We do cheerful stuff too.
When I first moved to Toronto, a lot of people told me to be ready for the cold. It's funny, you know, because you get used to the weather pretty quick. It's the city that takes a while to warm up to you.
Walking through the city streets, is it by mistake or design? I feel so alone on the Friday nights. Can you make it feel like home if I tell you you're
We have $10 million worth of nicotine patches collecting dust in the warehouse. If we don't clear them out, we won't make it through next quarter.
Keelan,
We can make this fish from the Black Lagoon the sexiest piece of ass on the red carpet.
It's lethal.
It's addictive as hell.
How are you going to motivate the team? Step 1. Shout about our sordid state of affairs like a happy little family.
This is insane. We're about to poison people and trick them into feeling good about it.
This says we're just putting on the show. Step 2. Apply product. Every bead of sweat that drops off of your foreheads puts our product on the shelf for people to chew. Step 3. Forget why you were ever riled up about step 1. It's a slippery slope, people. Or, I might say, a delightful... Who's ready to make some money? That's what I thought.
Every individual is equal before and under the law.
And has the right to the equal protection and equal...
We were able to find in the whole area was about 3 to 4 inches long, like 10 centimeters or about.
Do people exaggerate the health effects?
Yeah, a lot. No, this is a rock. This is not more than just any rock. This is only a rock.
It has been known for 100 years that asbestos causes terrible diseases.
Johns Manville wanted to be thought of as the family company, and so they had Christmas parties. They would bring us through on tours to see where Daddy worked. You can see the asbestos in the air. When workers complained that they could see the fibers in the air, it was remedied by darkening the windows so the sunlight wouldn't hit the fibers.
The plants here hired our men or our young teenagers. We have whole streets in this community who have no men on them.
Prime Minister Harper constantly uses this spin, saying Canada promotes the safe use of asbestos in Canada and around the world for 30 years. The reality is the exact opposite.
Your country, a country you love unconditionally, Canada, stood virtually alone on the world stage against 100 other countries and stopped asbestos from being declared